Reddit, when did doing the right thing horribly backfire? Gave a one-eyed homeless guy $5. He wandered off, apparently telling other homeless guys his good fortune. Homeless guys began melting out of the scenery asking for their $5. I realized my mistake at that point and stopped being generous. They apparently turned their anger on one eye and stabbed him for his $5. I found out when questioned by police. Well, shit. In 7th grade, gave a choking girl the Heimlich maneuver, saved her life. No one else knew how, and I was suspended for 5 days for sexual harassment. Her parents tried to sue, but it went nowhere. My friend and I were walking through the city late at night. Extremely drunk man appears beside us, mumbles about not telling the Christians our names because they're following him, then loloops on with his crack showing. He scared the shit out of me, so friend and I hang back a bit to avoid catching up with him. He staggers out into oncoming traffic. Miraculously avoids being hit. I suggest to friend that we call the police to pick him up because we don't want him to die/cause someone else's death. Drunk man reaches the other side of the road, trips over a bin, gets up and starts kicking the bin vigorously. Then suddenly keels over. Friend and I start calling an ambulance and go over to check the exact address of the corner drunk guy is on. The emergency operator asks me to check if he's breathing. I do, praying that I won't have to give CPR to this very drunk and rather melty looking man. Luckily, he is breathing, and after a couple of seconds his eyes even flick to me. I go back to my friend. Notice drunk guy is pulling himself up on the bins. Think he's going to lolloop off, and we'll have to follow him to give directions to the ambulance people. No. That's not what he does. He comes charging towards me and my friend, and tries to grab her. I get between them, and we take off, with me still on the phone to the emergency operator. We're near Euston Tube Station, so we start to walk running towards that. Stupidly, we take the path across the green, which is poorly lit and creepy, but it is the fastest way to the station. Drunk guy chases us. But luckily, he's so drunk that every time he almost catches us, he trips over something or collides with a bench, or just plain heads off in a different direction. We are still walk running at this point. It's this strange refusal to run flat out, because somehow walk running makes it less scary. A group of men is coming towards us. I am still on the phone to the operator, who is sending police to our location, who is talking to us until we're safe. We ask the group of men to walk us to the station. Turns out they don't speak English. They just point at it. This gives drunk guy time to catch up with us again and try to grab my friend. We take off again and turn in towards the bus stops outside the station. To do this, we have to go past some recycling bins. A homeless guy comes out from behind them and asks, 10 pence for a homeless man? Normally, I would give him change. This is not normally. I apologize as we speed past him. Homeless guy bellows, ducking bish cunts, and starts chasing us with drunk guy. Emergency operator says, "Oh, is that man helping you?" I say, no, he is chasing us too. We make it to the bus stop and the other people waiting for the bus. Drunk guy ambles off. Homeless guy asks for change from everyone at the bus stop. Ambulance arrives for drunk guy. I tell them that I don't mind if they beat him with sticks, to be quite frank, and that I hope he chokes on his own vomit. Then I point them in the direction that he went anyway. TLDR, tried to be helpful and call an ambulance for a dude who passed out drunk behind some bins, got chased by said dude and a homeless guy while on the phone to the emergency services. There was a guy at work who would always talk about bringing a gun to work and showing our boss he won't take it anymore, and he can understand why those people shoot up their place of employment. I told my boss about it, and after an investigation, they fired the guy. I think I did the right thing, and maybe it saved the lives of people at work. But I just found out that he killed himself last week because of it. To be honest, it sounds like you still did the right thing. If he was willing to kill himself, he was obviously unstable, and an unstable person talking about bringing a gun to work and shooting his boss. I would not make that gamble. You probably saved at least one life, maybe more. Went to get a pap smear while still living at home with my mother, had recently gotten my own cell phone, and asked them to call it, instead of my house, as it was my most recent contact number, and the easiest way to reach me about my personal medical issues. They called my house to tell me they had an abnormal culture, so as I sat in the other room, trying to avoid my mother and figure out exactly what they were telling me, I had her in my ear asking, "What's that all about?" So I was honest. Apparently I had an abnormal pap. I need to go back and get a second one. Apparently they think I have HPV. She instantly explodes into, "You have genital warts." Oh my god. And that kind of a tirade, berating me for being unsafe, "What if you've infected us?" And things like that, despite her being a surgical tech previously, and knowing that HPV does not work like that. Your brother may use your razors. What if he gets warts? Yes, my manly little brother is going to use my intuition razor with the girly block of soap and the big gas handle to what? Shave his face? His pubes? It ultimately resulted in me getting kicked out. Oh, and the bonus? False positive. My mother kicked me out for being forthcoming and honest with her about my actual life, after years of ensuring me that I could always come to her and to never be embarrassed. Needless to say, she was wrong. Sorry. She was wrong to do that. I had to pack all that I could into 2 tiny suitcases and wait over 6 hours for someone to come pick me up and to take me away. Things are strained now because of some other family issues, and while I love my mother, I resent her for that. My friends in college had to kill and dissect mice. There were too many etherized mice for the class, so they got the leftover little dude and carefully revived him, gave him water, stroked his fur, and then took him outside and released him on the lawn outside the cafeteria. Free crumbs for life. He made it several yards before a bird swooped down and grabbed him. The circle of life. I was really invested in the company I worked for and loved working there. They got bought out by another company who treated employees like dirt. About a month and we were having server issues with one of our migrated servers, and I stayed an extra 8 hours to help get it back up and running before the next work day. Then the next day I worked my regular 9 hours, our lunch break, and then came back in at 10 PM and worked an extra 4 hours to help resolve an issue with a client in China. On the 3rd day I was so tired I slept through my alarm and was probably about 2 hours late. My boss had a fit telling me how unprofessional it was to show up late, and if I did it again I would be fired. He also pulled the "I don't want to hear any of your excuses, just listen to me" rant, which I find to be incredibly unprofessional. I worked salary and wasn't compensated for any of my time. Thankfully I no longer work there. I was in the parking lot of a store one time when a lady dropped a bunch of stuff off her cart. She was having trouble picking up a box of bulk items. I told her that I would help her, and we both picked the box up and put it in the trunk of her car. She then sprayed me with pepper spray and screamed. I was left confused at why I was attacked, as she almost ran me over driving out of there. I like how she had the presence of mind to stay calm until the box was in the back of her car, and then proceeded to pepper spray you. As if she was thinking, okay, he might rape me, but let's get this heavy box in my car first then I'll spray him. Yeah, that's it. My best friend was going through a messy breakup with his girlfriend. She was pissed, so she stole a bunch of his clothes and his cat, and drove off to her apartment. We jumped into my car and gave chase. She pulled into her apartment complex and parked before realizing we were behind her, so I pulled up behind her and blocked her car in. She started screaming at me to move my car, and I said, "Duck no," while my friend called the cops. He had had the cat for 8 years and was desperately attached to it. He had only had a girlfriend for 2 years. The cops get there, and they talk to everyone. They figure out the situation. They tell the girlfriend to return the cat and the clothes. Then an officer comes over to me and says he's considering arresting me for false imprisonment. My ducking jaw dropped. Normally, I'm super respectful and cool with the cops, but it was just too much for me to swallow. Are you kidding me right now? Not at all. You put your car behind us, making it impossible for her to leave. You kept her there against her will, and that's a crime. She could have gotten out of the car and walked away at any time. I was only stopping her from feeling the scene with stolen property. Oh, are you a police officer now? Is that your job? I stared at him sullenly, a look of, you can't be ducking serious on my face. I guess we don't do anything this time, but next time you shouldn't get involved in disputes like this. It's a matter for the police, and you should leave it up to us. Christ, what a ducking mess that night was. I was in an extremely weird and once in a lifetime kind of car accident, where I was supposed to be not at fault. I really don't want to go into detail, but another car hit me going twice the speed limit, sending us both rolling down into a ditch. I got out through the windshield since it was shattered, and was able to cut the airbag. The other car was in much worse shape and was on fire. I ran up to see if the driver was okay, but she was falling in and out of consciousness. Her car was upside down, and roof was caved in, pressing her into the seat. The seatbelt was tight around her, and her airbag wasn't deflating. I struggled with the door and was able to get her out as the fire spread onto her. I remember passing out a little after I was able to put out the fire on her legs. Woke up in the ambulance, broken leg and concussion. EMT said I was only able to save her from all the adrenaline coursing through my system. The police that wrote the report found her at fault and said I was a hero, but no good deed goes unpunished. She had first-degree burns on her legs and face and had super cheap-ass insurance. She ended up suing me and dragging me into a 4-year legal process that not only cost my insurance thousands, but had me spending money on legal fees and lost wages from constantly having to go to court. It was finally settled, because somehow all she needed was to prove I was at least 1% at fault, and my insurance folded. She was awarded my full liability, $200,000 plus $25,000 that I'm on the hook for personally. I was barely able to get my car paid off, and whatever was left in my pocket for a new car had to go to her. It's been 6 years since the accident, and I still owe about $12,000, but I'm trying to avoid paying that. The last time I talked to my attorney after she was awarded damages, he said something that I'll always think back on, and wish I could have changed my actions. He said if he was in my shoes and knew the outcome, he would have left her in there to burn. A work friend of mine was going through a nasty divorce. Even though it wasn't finalized, he was seeing another woman at work on the down low, but everyone at the office had suspicions. Having dealt with divorce before, I sent him an email explaining that people were talking, and he may want to be more discreet as to not exacerbate things with his divorce. He told the down low girl what I had said. She told me to mind my business. I explained over and over again that I meant well, and it was nothing against her. She convinced him not to talk to me anymore, and we haven't spoken since. TLDR, gave advice about divorce, lost a friend. If I was your friend, I wouldn't have told the girl that you gave me the advice, just that, hey, people are starting to talk. I overheard them. We should lay low for a bit until the divorce is final. This protects both of us. Your once friend is kind of dumb. A friend of mine was walking down the street late at night when he saw a man lying in an alleyway. The guy looked as though he'd been really hurt and was asking for help. My friend approached him to find out how badly he'd been hurt and what he needed to do. When he did, a bunch of guys ambushed him, beat him up and stole all his money. The whole thing had been set up just to lure him into a vulnerable situation. It's ducking terrible to take advantage of someone's kindness like that. I read a story of a man driving in the middle of the night on a street surrounded by cornfields when he saw a man laying in the street ahead not moving. He contemplated helping, but ultimately decided he should find help ahead to play it safe. He carefully drove around the body and slowly drove off, and when he looked in his rear view he saw the body stand up and slink away into the cornfields. Most likely there was an ambush waiting.